physicians who cared for Meher Baba when they had their accident. This is a small hospital, and by the time most of the emergency department was taken care of, the hospital was a mess. Mud, glass, grass, everything you could think of scattered around. One of the ladies' most severe injury was the skull injury, which would look like a cracked egg that had been dropped about 3 feet from the floor. Even when he was in pain right after the accident, he acted like he wasn't. He said, "Go ahead and take care of everybody else. I'm not hurting." But before they left, of course, we found out all about him. In fact, every time I'd pass the door, Baba wanted me to come in there and talk to him. And it was very pleasant to do it. With someone I had to interpret at that time, he talked entirely by his fingers.
It didn't appear in the New York Times, it wasn't on the CBS Evening News, and it's never been included even as a footnote in any American history book. The only major newspaper to mention it was the Times of India in Bombay. Yet what happened near Prague, Oklahoma on 24th May 1952 was perhaps the greatest event, spiritually speaking, in the history of America, its repercussions reverberating across the centuries. The event I'm referring to was the shedding of the Avatar's blood on American soil. Meher Baba, who was severely injured in this Prague, Oklahoma automobile collision, said, "It will result in benefit to the whole world." So its significance can perhaps be thought of as an act of grace. This accident was foreshadowed by Meher Baba years before it happened, as evidenced by his words to Elizabeth Patterson, the driver of Baba's car, and the wildflower he gave her 20 years to the day beforehand, where he said, "Always keep this flower and write down this date, and someday you will know its meaning." She saved it in her Bible with these words, Baba, May 24th, 1932. But it wasn't until years later, after the accident, when she rediscovered the Bible while unpacking a trunk for a trip abroad, that she realized its meaning. And someday, the whole world will know its meaning. It was this automobile accident that Baba referred to as the greatest of my sufferings. But for America, it was the greatest of blessings. For as Baba has said, the Avatar takes upon himself the suffering of the world, which is the result of its karma. And when viewed from this perspective, nothing like Meher Baba's accident has ever happened in America before or since. It's also important to see the connection of this accident to Meher Baba's Mananash phase of his New Life work. This phase was the culmination of Baba's new life, the archetypal work he did to create the template for all aspirants for following him in the future. Mananash, or annihilation of the mind, was the phase which he initially conducted in India between October 1951 and February 52. And at its completion on February 16th, Baba began planning his first trip to Myrtle Beach, informing Elizabeth Patterson, the founder of the Meher Spiritual Center, that he would need to be in seclusion there for the first 2 weeks of his visit to complete the Mananash work on behalf of the West. And then just a few weeks after that initial visit to the Meher Center, the accident occurred in Oklahoma. And according to Erich Jesawala, one of the 4 companions with Baba during the New Life and Mananash, this accident marked the conclusion of the Mananash period.
end of the Manonash period. Soon after that, Baba started his preparations to go to the West in 1952. In 1952, Baba went to the West, and before going to the West, he told us that the next phase of his complicated free life would begin. And you know what happened then, of course. When he went to the West, to the States, United States of America, he met with the accident right in the heart of the continent. And there, the complicated free life began. That's the end of the Manonash period, boy.
After 12 arduous days in the Prague Hospital, followed by a month of convalescence in Myrtle Beach, Baba and his mandali traveled to New York, staying in Scarsdale. Phyllis Frederick, who arranged the accommodations there, recalled what Baba shared with her on July 13th that year. Baba said, "America was after my blood for a long time." Baba repeated this with a beaming smile, as if everything had gone according to his wish. But how can one fathom this? He had 2 bones of his lower left leg broken, his left arm at the shoulder broken, and the septum of his nose broken, his upper gums injured and his tongue lacerated and bleeding from the lower dentures he was wearing. Baba also suffered due to the severity of his beloved Mehera's injuries. She suffered a fractured skull, the worst one that Dr. Burleson had ever seen, and he even said at the time that he didn't think that she would survive. So Meher Baba's triumphant expression regarding the accident seemed to pertain to his universal work, which for him was always paramount and which she placed above his physical well-being. The Prague Hospital, where Meher Baba and his companions spent those 12 days, has already become a sacred site, visited by pilgrims from throughout the world. The hospital staff there has welcomed many pilgrims into Baba's hospital room, a room they refer to as the prayer room, and the key to the room is labeled Meher Baba. And now, more than 70 years after the accident, Meher Baba has given his lovers a unique opportunity. The Avatar Meher Baba Heartland Center learned this year that the Prague Hospital is planning to move to a new location in as little as 3 years, and they are now in the process of creating the construction plans for their new facility. And they will soon begin fundraising, and the city of Prague, which owns the hospital, has expressed confidence that they will be successful and able to move, and at that time, its current premises would be available for acquisition. Baba remarked in 1931 on his first trip to America that there would eventually be 5 major centers for him in the United States. Later in the 1940s, he further elaborated that one of them would be in the center of the country, a remark that now seems to clearly indicate the Heartland Center in Prague, founded in 2002. And acquisition of the hospital has always been a long-term intention of the Heartland Center. But the realization of this intention is coming much closer, and with that, the importance of preparing to take action has become imperative. The Heartland Center held a visioning session in 2021 before we knew about the pending move of the hospital. That session resulted in a recognition of the essential need to begin preparing now for the moment when the hospital might be available for acquisition. This session led over the next year to the formation of what is now called the Heartland Memorial Initiative. And in 2022, a group of 20 Baba lovers from throughout the country converged in Prague, and there they dedicated themselves to the Heartland Memorial Initiative to acquire and memorialize the sacred sites in and around Prague associated with Meher Baba. And then, with Baba's impeccable timing, Just months after this gathering was when we learned of the hospital's intention to move. So this finds us today at a pivotal moment, and we are optimistic for now that with the Heartland Memorial Initiative, it seems Baba is bringing together a dynamic group of people who collectively possess the capabilities necessary to bring this opportunity to fruition. And there will be many more opportunities for others to participate as Baba shows the way forward. We're not viewing this just as a long-term goal that's going to be achieved by a long-term fundraising effort. When the hospital becomes available, it will require an immediate response. And if the opportunity is lost, it will likely be lost forever. The hospital could well be demolished, changed in a way that destroys or damages the sacred places within it, or otherwise become no longer accessible for pilgrimage. So this may well be a once-in-an-avataric cycle opportunity. Therefore, the Heartland Center needs to be prepared to commit to the hospital acquisition as soon as it becomes available. Financial help from the worldwide Baba family to secure this sacred site for Meher Baba is urgently needed. And if successful, seekers now and for centuries to come will be able to make pilgrimage to the Prague Hospital Memorial and partake of the treasure Meher Baba left there for humanity. For our goal is to memorialize the hospital, preserve it for posterity as a sacred site, and mark it as a place of pilgrimage for the whole world. And detailed plans are already in the making. Here is an architectural drawing showing one possibility of the hospital as a memorial. And in this drawing, you can see plans for much more than just Baba's room. There are also plans for Mehera's hospital room, Mehera's garden, the emergency room, a meeting room with a stage, and a museum. The Heartland Center currently is comprised of 2 houses in Prague that are adjacent to the hospital. The Burleson House belonged to Dr. Ned Burleson, who was the doctor who created the hospital and treated Baba, Mehera, and the others at the time of the accident. These 2 houses today provide accommodation for all those who make pilgrimage to Prague to experience Baba's sacred sites. In acquiring the hospital, the Heartland Center envisions expanding to occupy the entire block on which the 2 houses and the hospital now sit. So here is one architect's vision for what the entire Heartland Center complex might become. Of course, the full development of the site will not come about for some time, and there will no doubt be other design ideas that will be considered before a final design is selected. But we envision that the memorial built there will honor Baba's suffering and foster an awakening of himself in the hearts of all who visit. The acquisition and memorialization of the hospital is just the first part of the longer-term vision for the Heartland Memorial Initiative. That vision calls for the eventual acquisition and development of property adjacent to the accident site to become a major retreat center. However, that property is not currently available, so at this time we view it as a later stage in the memorialization initiative. Now, I also want to share something with you from my own experience. For in 1972, I traveled overland from Europe to India in search of my spiritual master, a search that ultimately led me to Meher Baba. And this search started in Istanbul. And while there, I visited the Topkapi Palace Museum, one of the oldest and most acclaimed museums about the Ottoman Empire. But the most significant treasure exhibited there is a single hair from the Prophet Muhammad's beard, which has always been venerated by Muslims as a source of great blessings. This is what most attracted me and what I believe to be true for the over 3 million people who file through that museum every year. These visitors come to experience that link to the eternal an experience made possible simply by being in the presence of a tangible link to the form of the God-man. I too had that experience when I first visited Prague a number of years ago, having been invited by the Heartland Center's then president to run a retreat for the board. Up to that time, I knew, of course, about Prague and the accident, as well as the Heartland Center, but I viewed it mainly as a historical site of Baba's and not necessarily one that I was drawn to visit. When I arrived, I was escorted to Baba's hospital room, and as I entered, I was overwhelmed by the experience of Baba's presence in that room, and it was totally unexpected. And it was also a unique experience that captured a facet of Baba for me that I'd not found anywhere else. And each time I returned to that room, I continue to find Baba there. And I've since learned that my experience is by no means unique. Countless people from all over the world who have visited this site have had their own unique and profound experiences in that hospital room. So I've realized that in fact, this is not just a historic site. It's a sacred site, one that is capable of lifting one into the realm of the divine. And now, in the advent of Meher Baba, it appears that his lovers will have the opportunity to create a memorial of the hospital facilities where he suffered for humanity. The vision for this memorial is to be nothing short of a major world pilgrimage site. In conclusion, we have these words from Bal Kalchuri, one of Meher Baba's closest disciples and author of the epic biography of Baba's life, Lord Meher. He said, Baba was lying on the soft dirt, bathed in blood. He had foretold that the soil of America wanted his blood, and in his infinite mercy, he was spilling it there. It was as if a knife had impaled the heart of our age as it watched the living Christ bleeding helplessly on that Midwestern road. "Oh, America," it cried, "you thirsted for his blood, now quench your thirst. But remember to remind future generations that along with his blood, he also brought and left there the divine treasure." Meher Baba has given us the responsibility to safeguard this divine treasure, for we are the fortunate ones who realize what he left there through his suffering. Success or failure is not in our hands. We can only do our best as stewards of this treasure. But Baba said, "My work is your opportunity." So this is the opportunity he has given to his worldwide family to serve him, to love him, and to please him by creating through this memorial a tangible link to the eternal.